Hi Rishi, thanks for joining me on this coffee chat. Super excited to have you here and talk more about the Big Red Group and all the wonderful work that you've been doing. So thanks for joining.
Thank you, Abhinav. Looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. Great. So let's start with, how did the Big Red Group come together? How did you come up with this concept? Because it's a unique one. So would love to hear what your journey has been like and how did this all come about?
Thanks. Very similar journey to yours, Abhinav. There, I used to play squash for India in the juniors, and I was in a boarding school called Mayo College. And because we were in a boarding school, as much I was traveling around the world for squash tournaments and playing for the country. I always thought that we were a bit less, a bit more sheltered in terms of what our education was and what was out there in the world. And of course, I'm talking sort of ancient history back in 2008, 2007, when I was looking to study abroad. And, I was very lucky to get into a boarding school in the US called Phillips Academy. And really, the genesis of Big Red Group came from that school for me, because even more than Cornell University, where I did my undergrad later in economics and government, what that school offered me was literally handed me a work, a sort of a course book, and said, choose what you want to do. And that was such a surreal experience for me. I took courses on international relations, sports philosophy, where we were, looking at Federer's swing and talking about Olympians and all of that, to African drumming, to international relations, reading Fukuyama and Huntington in a high school space, in a very closed space, with 10, 15 kids, to a professor, and having those honest discussions. So that made me realize that, and I felt that a lot of the subjects that I hated in school, like English literature, history, I started loving them at Andover. And later on, when I went to Cornell, of course, it was the same philosophy or liberal arts education: study what you want, and whatever you're really interested in, do some of those things a little bit more. So yeah, that was sort of the journey. And when I came back to India, I thought to myself, why not bring some of these best programs from around the world to Indian students, rather than students at that time. The thought was not really online. The thought was getting the professors to come down to India and run these workshops, run these brilliant programs over the summer and winter, when students get an opportunity. And yeah, over the last few years now, it's sort of more moved towards the online section, where students again don't have to go to Penn or Cornell or Harvard to do these programs, and at a fraction of the cost, they can do that right sitting at the comfort of their homes, either through the semester or during their summer or winter break. So that was sort of the genesis of sort of my journey and how it relates to the Big Red Group. One quick thing on the Big Red, of course, the name was very simple. Me and my co-founder were both from Cornell. Cornell's logo was, sort of motto was "Go Big Red," and we didn't pay much attention to it. And I always tell people not to think too much about names. But now, of course, over the years, we have really transformed what Big Red Group means to us. So rather quickly, the number one is big, which is we want our mentees, our students, to dream big. The R really stands for relationship, resilience, and reflection. Moving away from the three R's earlier, which was reading, writing, and arithmetic. And the group is really forming a community of lifelong learners, which we believe both our mentors and our mentees to be. So sorry for the long answer, but that was
Oh,
sort of
this
the
is
genesis of my journey, BRG, and what we're trying to do here.
amazing. And I always think when things start from a passion and somewhere you were probably sitting at school and then went to Cornell and realized, hey, my schooling experience perhaps gave me something that even that Cornell wasn't able to exactly offer. And it's amazing that then that thought, how that comes into actual life, and you've brought that out. And there are so many students that you guys end up working with. So that's fantastic journey so far. So Rishi, tell me, for any of the students or any parents watching this, what are the different programs that BRG offers and who could potentially be a good fit for these programs?
Okay. Well, thanks for that question. And before I dive, into some of the programs that we do, I would like to highlight to all the parents and students watching this is, I and you know, you are doing consulting work as well yourself, Abhinav. And I always, when I speak with kids and parents, I always try to tell them that it is hard to find what you're really passionate about, but I always hate starting the discussion of courses with a school in mind or with a college in mind. I always feel that still what students truly need to realize in their high school journey is that do what you love, explore a lot of cool things out there in the world. I mean, how lucky are we that everything today, and especially for kids who are in, you know, top tier cities or even who are not, I mean, everything is available online or in an offline medium. And today India is at that center of that education revolution. So what I would say is that please go out there, explore in whatever field. It could be sports, it could be psychology, it could be magic, it could literally be anything that you are really passionate about. And there are courses, or if not the courses, but experiences, out there, related to that particular subject or particular to, you know, to that topic, really pertinent to that topic. And really just go out there, explore. And if you do that in the right fashion, you will find a good college which is out there for you. So having said that, there are a lot of cool courses that we offer. The first, one of our flagship programs is called the Harvard YLC, called Harvard Youth Lead the Change program. This is a program which really focuses on leadership and youth lead. You know, it's called Youth Lead the Change because the second aspect is on a social change project that these students have to make. Now, one big thing with all of our BRG, courses or programs really is that there is a tangible outcome that we try to give to the student by the end of the program. Now, for the YLC program, that's a social change project that you take back with you. And there are a lot of additional features in all of our programs that, again, we try to offer. For example, with YLC, there's a 1-year long mentoring support that you get through all of these Harvard mentors. Now, the beauty of YLC is that you don't have an older person, 40, 50 years old, talking to you about leadership. It's young undergraduate students who are right now currently at Harvard. And the beauty again is that they all come from more than 5 or 6 countries, someone from South Africa, someone from Jordan, from the US. So you're really getting an international perspective from someone who's maybe 3 or 4 years older to you, who was just in your shoes right before. And the kind of leadership lessons and really embodying what leadership was for them when they were in high school, really, I feel speaks to a lot of students. So in my opinion, if you're looking for leadership, opportunities, if you're thinking about social change, that is a program which is very close to my heart, because you're really hearing it from the horse's mouth, and you're understanding what it takes. And when people in 5 days make amazing projects, they really feel that, if we can accomplish so much in 5 days, what can we do in maybe 5 months or 4 or 5 years? One big part, I would also say, there's some amazing projects that have come out of this. Of course, not as many as I would want, but still every year there's a project called, I know a program which so many of my students now are volunteering for, called Teens for Teens. It has around 3,000 volunteers around the world. And projects like these are something that keeps us going and make sure that we run our programs with as much gusto as possible. So that's on leadership and social change. The second big flagship program that we have, which I love, is called the Ivy Early Entrepreneur Program. Now, being an entrepreneur myself, I wanted to talk to young kids about entrepreneurship. So in the last 3 years of learning, of running these programs, what we have here is I've got a mixture of professors. So mostly a lot of these professors come from top business schools, whether that's Harvard, Stanford, IE Business School. And then there is a lot of cool mentors like yourself who are, all of them are top Ivy League graduates and are in Forbes 30 Under 30 magazine. So, running very successful startups. And they come in and we get students to go, same thing that a lot of entrepreneurship courses are doing these days, which is get them to identify a problem. So it could be, for example, how do we make lives of pet owners better? How do we make fashion more sustainable? So sort of the cool problems that are out there in the world. On day 0, we throw them at students. They choose one democratically in a team of 7 to 8 people. And then through the course of the week, they go from ideation to market research, design thinking, financial modeling, social entrepreneurship. And on the final seventh day, they actually do pitching, where they're actually pitching their business idea. And through the course of the week, they're actually working on their project, they're debating, they're collaborating with their fellow teammates from all around the world. And on the final day, we actually get we do a small Shark Tank kind of event, and we get these students to actually present their project. Now, as I said from the beginning, even in this program, what we do is we offer a guaranteed internship to all of the students, and they get 6 months to choose what kind of internship they want to do, whether that's in aerospace. And we have external partners who sort of work with these students to make sure that we find the right fit for them. So these are sort of the two flagship programs that we have, and I won't take too much time, but please go on our website to see more. But we have programs, for example, on business of sports, 101. We have a program now over the summer. We are doing some really cool programs with Oxford and Cambridge professors on 4 different aspects. So one is going to be environmental sciences, one is going to be law, one is going to be medicine, and one is going to be, again, entrepreneurship and innovation. So again, we are hoping that with all of the programs that we do, we also did a very cool program on poetry in America Intensive, which was actually a poetry program by the godmother of poetry in the US called Lisa New. She has a TV show called Poetry in America as well on PBS. And she's just moved to ASU as their Public Humanities Center director. And you have people like, she's interviewing people like Shaquille O'Neal, Nas. I mean, it was such a pleasure when people were reading New York State of Mind, which is this iconic song by Nas, and decoding it in high school and talking about poetry. And towards the end, we actually got people to write their own poetry, and then of course having an anthology of a book that we created, which we circulated to all the schools. So yeah, I mean, the things that I've talked about: leadership, entrepreneurship, medicine, law, environmental sciences, poetry, and sports. So these are sort of the 7 fields that we're offering in the upcoming summer for 2023.
That's amazing. And I think the biggest sort of underlying factor that just sort of speaks to me is also that it doesn't sound like, these are not like typical courses where you go in and you learn and you come back and that's it. And you go back to high school and you maybe remember something and you maybe forget something. These are, you do apply knowledge somewhere in this program as well, whether it's the entrepreneurship one or the leadership one. There is some level of application, and there are opportunities where you may create a social work project, or you may have an internship, or you may be a part of this mini book that you guys created with all the poetry that students wrote. So I think that itself is amazing for students and even for parents, because a lot of times you need, what's that tangible outcome at the end of that program that we can see, and there is that exists, which is amazing, I'm sure, for a lot of students and parents.
No, true. I mean, that is the reason. I mean, we take a lot of feedback from parents, and of course, we try to fulfill it. For example, tangible outcome is something that we really care about as well. And in all of our programs, as I said, we want it to be an experience. And the good thing is that our cohort in itself, the way that BRG is, our cohort is very good, smart, passionate kids. So even the cohort and the students that you're working with all across the world, and really even across your country, there's a Bombay kid, and the way when we do our groupings as well, we're very sure that, okay, there's a 9th grader with a 12th grader. There is, in one group of 7 to 8 people, there's a kid from Delhi to Coimbatore to Siliguri. And that's how they are really able to use their diversity to their advantage. And of course, even in terms of tangible outcomes, for example, even in the business of sports 101 program, we were working with Rajasthan Royals, and the CMO of Rajasthan Royals actually came in and, after delivering his lecture, we actually gave them live projects where the students were given 3 different problem sets. How do we increase app usage during off season? Because India, IPL teams in general have very low app usage during off season. Merchandising revenue is very, very low. So one question was on merchandising revenue. So, things like these, and these students, young students, we don't really try to treat them as kids. We really try to in all of our programs, and that's why the age group of 8 to 12 works really well with us. We are really treating them as young adults, and we want them to make sure that whatever is thrown at them, which are the real world scenarios, real problem sets, they're able to work through it through our workshop, and then in the end really come up with some great solutions. So you really get put on from day one, and you just have to flow with it and go with it. And that's what I realized, that by the end, students don't realize how much potential they really have. But through the program, they really feel that, oh my God, like I did so much in a week's time. Let me dive into it a little deeper with other things, and maybe I'll become better. So those are sort of the cool things about these experiences of these workshops, really.
Amazing. Great to know. I think my next set of questions are very short and sweet. This is more, I guess, for students to understand whether they can take this on, because, a lot of times they have other high school commitments. So what's the commitment level required from students, and how are the programs typically during the holiday time, or do they also take place during the school calendar?
Great question. So most of our programs do happen during the summer and winter vacations. We try very hard to make sure, we take in account all the academic calendars in different cities around the country. But even if the programs happen during the school hours, we make sure that it happens in the evening, and works out really well for us because most of our professors are in Europe or in the US. So generally, typically, I would say maybe somewhere starting between 5:30 p.m. and some of our programs go up to 10:30 p.m. So the commitment level that we are looking for is, of course, 2 to 3 hours of actual live sessions that we do. And over the course of the week, every day, I would say probably spending 45 minutes. But be rest assured to all the mentees and all the students and parents who are looking forward to it, like, it's not sort of a homework that we're giving to you. And it's really upon your passion and how much you want to get into it. I mean, there are some students who are more than happy to sort of sit back and sort of get in, but our mentors are such and our team is such that we try to involve all the kids. We're making sure that they're really getting into their projects and helping their teammates and everything. But yes, in terms of commitment, around 3 hours, I would say, every day is a good commitment. And programs are intensive. They're a week to 10-day programs. So we make sure, as I said, most of them happens during holidays, but even if not, I think people are really excited to work on these things. So it's not like an added pressure that, oh my God, I have to listen to some old guy speak for a couple of hours, but it's very engaging. Our cohort sizes are very small. And even if, for example, if we're doing an online program and we have 100 people cohort in a program like YLC, I have 10 simultaneous mentors working with them at one go. So the idea is really how I had it was like personalized education, really getting personalized feedback, and in that sense, you're really able to grow and have a lot of fun while you're at it.
Nice, that's exciting. And yeah, I think when it's 7 to 10 days, it's a short period, but like you said, it's intensive. So even for students, I feel that sometimes that's easier than committing to something for, like 6 months, because a lot of students, at least when I see them working with them, it's tough for them to commit to very long-term things, and perhaps they can take on maybe 1 or 2 projects that they want to do for long term versus other things they have to find, pockets of time and spaces where they can manage that. So I think this sounds great for all of them from a time commitment perspective. And final question, Rishi, which is just around the application process. What's the application process like?
So again, another great question. Most of our programs are not application based. So it's very simple. You sort of go in, see what programs really pique your interest, and sort of sign up for them. And then our team sort of reaches out. There are certain questions that we do ask you, which are not really in terms of we're judging your acumen or something like that, but we want to understand how passionate you are. So that's, as I said, most 95% of programs are non-application based. So you just go, sign up, and then someone from our team sort of reaches out to you. Harvard YLC is the only program which is application based. And the reason for that is, and this is specifically for the offline one now, With the online one, again, we wanted more and more students to do it. So again, it's one very simple question we ask there. But for the offline one, there are three questions that we ask. About failure, about leadership, about what you're passionate about. And again, we want good kids to come into our programs. I've always seen that when you have a great cohort, when you have serious, passionate kids together, they do magic, right? And we want our mentors to have fun. We want our students to have fun. So that's one program that is application based. But again, as I said, we're not judging you on your grades. We don't care, how smart you are. We are really caring in all of our applications, all of our programs, as to how passionate you are to do that program. And we actually reject a lot of kids. I mean, someone from my team was telling me that this year we rejected around 700 applications, which came in from different parts, just because they didn't pay too much attention. If you can't spend 5 minutes to fill in, for a program, then it sort of questions, your passion, and that's the only thing. But I would still recommend kids to see what they're interested in, and the hope is that we have something for you in everything that you're interested in. So please do pick a program. I know leadership is something which is sort of encompasses everyone. Everyone wants to become a leader, but then we have some specific programs for you as well. And if you're doing that, I'm sure that it will pique your interest.
Yeah, I think that sounds great as well. And I feel it's interesting how you've done that, because the application process isn't like too intensive, but it's you also want to make sure they're passionate and interested enough. So that's perfect. Great, Rishi. This has been a pleasure, and I'm sure this is going to help a lot of students out there just understand what the BRG program is all about, and even your journey and why it exists. I sometimes feel I buy a lot of products and services because of the person who started it and why that whole company sort of started. So I know that just listening to your inspiration and motivation behind the organization and behind these programs, I can just assume that everything is going to be spot on and the experience is personalized, and the whole goal is to expose students to topics that perhaps they're not going to cover in a formal school setting. So amazing stuff that you guys are doing, and I'm sure more and more students are going to keep coming your way.
No, thank you so much. And again, one last thing from my side there, Abhinav, would be that of course, I'm here right now talking to you about programs, talking about how students can become better and get more experiences. And for me, really, even if it's not BRG, I would really just recommend kids and parents to explore a lot more. It was me sitting on my desk one day and writing an email to a Harvard coach, which opened up my world literally, and who recommended me to go to high school there and then college. So I feel a lot of cool things happen when you just put yourself, without sounding too philosophical, out there in the universe. And I feel whether it's a BRG program or any program, when I remember in high school, because there was really, really motivated kids from 60 countries in the high school I went to, they were like, Rishi, what are you doing this summer? And I would say, well, I'm going to play squash, which was my main thing. And of course, I was most passionate about. So that's what I did. But then I realized quickly that, hey, I need to do a few more things. And, I interned a couple of times in school. I started a business on art while I was in school. So I always feel that it's never too early.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the one thing, that keep experimenting. Maybe there are some courses that you love. There are some courses that you'll hate. You'll be like, oh my God, why did I sign up for this? It was such a waste of my time. But hopefully with every program or everything, you will learn new things. And for me, as I always said, make new friends who share the same passion with you, and meet amazing mentors. I think that's another thing that people don't realize, that, with the new edtech startups, what at least you have is now that you're able to make new connections. You're working with them on, you connect with them on LinkedIn. Even all of our mentees, we tell them that all of the professors that have taught you throughout the program, all of your mentors, please make sure that you add them on LinkedIn. And that in itself, like your peers, and now we have been running it for 4 years now, Abhinav, so you won't believe we've got kids now who are in college and said, hey, Rishi, now we met in during the Wild Sea program or some of the other programs, and now we both are in college in the US and we are best of friends. So these are things which are really priceless. So I again would say, connections that you make with your mentors and your fellow students who are passionate about the same thing is something that I feel every student is looking out there for, and that's another great advantage to do these programs. So keep always be on the lookout, and yeah, everything will work out towards the end. So yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's a great one to sum it all up, because there are always added advantages to these things, and relationships and connections are two of those things. But also, I think just the exploration and experimentation, like you mentioned, we recommend that to a lot of students as they're discovering what their academic majors should be. And we do psychometric testing also, but we hate to kind of rely on psychometric testing, because sometimes it may suggest you're not good at something, but you may be very interested in it. And this is the only way to find out whether you actually want to make a career out of it, or at least want to study that at college or not. So yeah, I think it's fantastic as well.
Sure.
Perfect. Great. Thanks for doing this, Rishi, once again. And, wish you the best. And I'm sure we'll talk again very soon.
No, thank you, Abhinav and NexTrack Consulting for having me here. Looking forward to having more of these chats, more of these informal chats with you, and happy holidays and have a great year ahead.
Thank you.